Hey everybody, my name's Chris, and I'm a bookaholic. I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I wanted to, kind of do, if you like this, maybe you'll like this. And so it'll be just a little bit of maybe some authors that you've never heard of before, or maybe it's something you think, oh, that's cool, but did you think of this? And you might have some recommendations for me, but I figure we'll just kind of jump into this and see what happens. It's not, like I spent a lot of time thinking about this, but I figured we'll give it a whirl and see if it kind of fits. So why don't we start with something that's a little bit, predictable. Terry Pratchett, Guards. A lot of people like Terry Pratchett. I do like him a lot. And actually, I read the biography or listened to the biography, and I found it to be so fantastic. One of my favorite books from really last year. And maybe it was the year before. Regardless, though, I think when I started reading specifically Guards here, there was a moment I thought to myself, this is kind of like Monty Python, sketch, mixed with just some zany, SNL bits, or maybe even Benny Hill. And, just with the dialogue alone, like there's so many just kind of almost passive, subtle, sarcastic nuances and comments, and of course the whole time they're ribbing and making fun of some of that quest imagery and the Arthurian story, and you have dragons and just the whole world that Pratchett sets up, and if you love it, you love it, and some people don't. But like I said, I am probably one of those who do find myself loving it. So what's something like that? Well, obviously, and I don't know why I can't find it, which is a little embarrassing, but I have the Douglas Adams series with the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and, universe. And so I think that kind of humor, and again, it's British humor, it's gonna work. But also, and this is a little bit more maybe stateside comparison, but I found that Kevin Hearn and Delilah Dawson's Kill the Farm Boy, there's some really kind of funny dialogue discourse that goes on. And there are at least, 3 or 4 different books that they've put out. Another one is called No Country for Old Gnomes. And then the third is called The Princess Beard. Now, maybe there's more. These are the 3 that I own. And I just think that there's some pretty funny moments in the books that reminded me a little bit of Pratchett and a little bit of Douglas. And so there are a few possibilities. So if you like Pratchett, maybe you'll like, Douglas Adams, or even this Hearn-Dawson collaboration. So, all right, let's try something else. And this is probably a little bit more up your alley. If you like The Hunger Games, which I'm sure most of you read, I know I did, because it was the thing, then you're probably going to like Red Rising, which I have to say that I felt like Red Rising in the beginning was a lot like this, but it kind of found its own legs, its own vibe. There's a beginning part in this that it's kind of this aha moment, like he realizes there are certain things that's been this just kind of pervasive lie. I really actually had a substantial like reaction to that moment. Like, I cannot believe that that's what's going on. So right away, just from that alone, I found myself hooked. And I think just the whole idea of being offered as tribute, and then you see kind of this independent, unique, kind of how do we fight against this oppression and, the system that is literally, having us pitted one against the other. And they're great series. I mean, they're classics for a reason. But I think if you like that, then obviously you've probably read the Veronica Roth's Divergent series. And I think that from what I've read so far of The Will of the Many, I think that this kind of fills and fits into that. In fact, the beginning part of this, there are just some things in here that remind me a lot of Red Rising. And I find that, obviously, if you like the one, you're probably going to like the other. Now, I will say, and this is true for me, I get a little irritated if something is too much like something else. I don't mind a little bit of that's the similar world, but I also don't want to feel like, hey, wait a minute, I think you're just ripping off that person. So I do believe that Pierce Brown, kind of has created his own world that is substantially and decidedly his own. And he certainly maybe, begins a little bit with some Hunger Games-ish ideas. But honestly, Suzanne Collins isn't the first person to come up with that idea of fighting the man. No, it's usually the man. All right. If you like that, you'll like this. So here's another one. And honestly, this is a little bit different, I suppose, but I'm trying to find it. Here we go. If you like this, which is Robert McCammon's Boy's Life, which, by the way, I'm in the zone with, and I'm loving it. And there are some scenes, though, in here that really just remind me so much of this. This was one of my top picks from last year, Summer of Night. I love this, Dan Simmons. Many of you know him from Hyperion and the book Hyperion. And honestly, Summer of Night was so good, so exceptional. I liked it especially because it took place in, kind of these farming communities, small town America. It's a little bit older. I recognize a lot of, almost the characters because that was how I grew up. Boy's Life is a little bit similar. I think it takes place around the 1960s-ish. So obviously for me, there's a lot of things that I really resonated with and love. So I think there's a lot that these two work with. But of course, and I think this is understandable, Stephen King's It, which is the coming of age, you have all of these kids, small town, of course, Castle Rock, and the difficulties and the struggle, the horror that they're going to experience and face and battle against. There are definitely some similarities that happen here. They're each unique authors in and of themselves. I actually found that Simmons is a lot like the voice here of McCammon. Now, I do think that Robert McCammon, I think he's from the Alabama area, so he's got that southern vibe, kind of the feel of where they're at, that, the rains and the heat, it's so pervasive and you feel that. So there is this kind of setting of, Midwest farming kind of idea that, starts to come through with the story. But that idea of the coming of age and a little bit of the horror, if you like one of these, you're going to definitely like the other. So that's definitely something that you might want to consider. I'm running out of room. Let's go a little faster. I'll pick a couple others that are, obviously recognizable. But here's the thing. If you like Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, which I absolutely loved, this has got to be one of my all-time favorites, then I think you might really like Andrew Tchaikovsky's Children of Time. But, and this is my recommendation, I would not read these right next to each other. Yeah, I loved the beginning part of this. And then I started to realize, wait a minute, are the primary characters animals? Like specifically, do we got some ants and spiders going on here? Like, to me, this was more difficult because I had a harder time being in a point of view that wasn't recognizable, although there's a lot of relatable things there. Anyhow, I definitely love this. This was okay, but I definitely think that there's a lot of similarities here that you might like. Okay, so maybe not. Maybe I'm crazy on that one, but that's okay. It's not the first time I've been crazy, and it's not going to be the last. Here's just one. If you liked this, which I did, I thought this was pretty good. My Best Friend's Exorcism. Grady Hendrix, who I think is pretty funny. But I mean, I suppose I could have put him in with the guards, but it's not that kind of. It's not that kind of, witty humor. It's a little bit more of a sarcastic, joke, super connected to the time period that they're in. This is the 80s, if I recall. Then I think that if you like that, you might like this, The Impossible Fortress. And I've been kind of a big fan of this recently. I found it at a thrift Goodwill or something, and there's a lot about this that I thought was really great. So anywho, if you like this, you might like this. Okay? And then just a couple more, and I'll stop torturing you, but Wool, which I really, really enjoyed this book. If you like this, then I think you might enjoy Dies the Fire by s.m.stirling. Now, here's the simple truth, is that this is definitely a kind of post-apocalyptic, story of survival. This is that as well, but this is really almost like the idea of coming together and how do we start creating an infrastructure and a governing system, and so you have like this idea of almost like clans and communities, and you're building almost this kind of culture that eventually you could see in the long haul, being a little bit like our own. So I like that idea. The second book is not, to me, it's not as exciting as the first. This really takes you right from that moment of like, what's going on to, okay, now we're going to have to survive. And here are some of the difficult elements we're going to have to face. And in this scenario, there's no ability for them to use electricity or even things like, weapons like guns. You would have to come up with a way to hunt that would be more primitive and, like pioneer time period. It's really interesting. I liked it a lot. If you like those, then you might like The Passage. And I know for some of you, you love this already. And for some of you, you're not a big fan. This was, I think this was released around the time that the big focus was on Twilight, and everybody thought that was kind of awesome and exciting, and so they really tried to highlight and emphasize maybe more the vampiric kind of portion of this, or that vampire-like quality. But I think this story is really fascinating just as a whole, of a community, again, trying to survive. And it's a little bit more of that than it is, we're battling the vampires type thing. And last but not least, Patient Zero, Code Zero, this John Mayberry series might fit into that arena. And I say might because I haven't read this yet, so I'm kind of going on something I heard recently. I think it was Talking Story was interviewing the author Mayberry, and I thought, well, maybe that would be something then that I would like, because I like The Passage and Wool and Dies the Fire, so maybe this is it. So if you like these, maybe you like this, or if you like this, maybe you like these and The Passage. That's that. And then we'll just do one last one, and this is kind of a little more up my weird book nerd alley. Okay. Katie Carlisle has this series, which is basically the story of a young woman, Brooklyn Wainwright, who's she's a bookbinder. And so you get a mystery within the realm of bookbinding. And I just thought, okay, that's kind of cool. I'll try it. And this is my crazy palate cleanser. And there are things about this that irritate me quite a bit, but I keep coming back to these because I like the book world. I like books about books. And so you do get that. And I do like mysteries, and some people don't, but I do. And so this works in that, with that as well. It takes place in the San Francisco area, and she does find herself in Scotland now and then. So it's kind of cool. Here's another, if you like that, you'll like this. Murders and Metaphors. This is the magical bookshop mystery, Amanda Flower. And, I have a number of these kind of books. Paige Shelton of Books and Bagpipes, and there's a number of books by Paige that you can check out. And also a pretty big name here is Lorna Culber. is Lorna Barrett, book clubbed. And all of these are going to have that kind of vibe of here's a mystery within the world of books. And probably if you like those, then you might like Emily Henry's book Lovers. This was surprisingly enjoyable. But I think that it had a lot of the things that if you like this, you're gonna like this. This might be a little bit more connected to the romance because this is a bit of a spoof on the romance drama to a degree. So anyhow, there it is. There's a few things for you to enjoy. Maybe you have some comparisons, some books that you think, if you like this, maybe you'll like that. So I have tons of others I could do, and maybe I'll do a few more of these videos. But I love this stuff, and I hope you do too.